All right, that's Alan Jackson with The Sounds. Some classic country there. All right, here we go from there. So we're going to finish up for our last section here, hopefully on sound, and we're going to demonstrate something, then we're going to talk about it. So listen closely. All right. Hopefully you heard that sound. Now, the sound was not a steady sound. It's changed. And yet all I was doing, I had a speaker and I was moving it closer and farther away from the microphone. Okay? And so it could have got louder and quieter, which would make sense. The closer it is, the louder it would get. We would expect that. But why would it sound differently? All right? And that's what we're going to talk about next. This is called the Doppler effect. You may have heard of Doppler radar on the weather and all that kind of thing. So this is called the Doppler effect. I believe his name was Christian Doppler. Anyhow, it has to do with the frequency that we've been talking about. Okay? And basically, here's the deal. If an object is standing still, let's just say this bug, and he's emitting an annoying noise. Okay, let's just say it's a mosquito. If it was standing still, it would be sending out these sound waves, and this would be the compression. There'd be rarefactions in between it, and it would spread out in all directions equally, and they would have a steady frequency. But most of the time a mosquito is not doing that, and that may be kind of what the sound you heard reminded you of, hopefully. And actually, a mosquito is usually flying. If he's flying toward you, then he was right here when he sent out the first sound wave, which would be this one on the outside now. Then he was here and he moved out this sound wave, and notice it's right in the center of it. And the third one was here, and that goes the third wave. And then he's right in the middle of the fourth wave. And he continues to move that direction. Well, since he's moving the same direction as the wave, he's catching up with the wave in front of it a little bit. And so they're actually closer together. And so they're actually a higher frequency and therefore higher pitched as it's coming close. That's why a mosquito, you can hear a mosquito when it's zooming into your ear. Why? Because it's getting a higher frequency, and you recognize that sound and know it's time to swat your hand at the mosquito. All right. Now, if it was moving away from you, so it's getting farther away each time before it sends out the new one, it creates a lower frequency, and so there is a lower frequency and therefore lower pitch sound that you hear as things go away from you. Okay, if we were to do this with a fire truck, okay, use this as an example. As it's coming towards you, you get a higher frequency. As it's going away from you, you get a lower and lower frequency. Okay, and so that sound change in the frequency as it's coming toward you, it's higher pitched, and therefore a higher frequency. As it's going away from you, it is a lower pitch, is basically what the Doppler effect is. If you're at the racetrack and you hear the cars coming, you go rum, rum. Okay, the higher pitches are coming toward you, and the lower pitch drone as they go the other direction. Thank you very much. That was Mr. McMurray Sound Effects. I'm kind of proud of my fast car. I do that pretty good, I think. So what you need to know is as the object comes nearer, the frequencies are closer together, which makes it has a higher pitch, higher frequency. As it goes away, it's lower and lower pitched. Now, why is that important? Well, like where I said, on the weather, they shoot sound waves out, they bounce off the clouds, and that are radio waves, and that tells them if the clouds are moving toward or away from them. That's why they can predict the movement of the clouds and so forth. The same thing happens with a radar gun. If the police are waiting on the side of the road with a radar gun, they shoot radio waves at you, it bounces back, and based on how fast it bounces back or what frequency it bounces back at, that tells you them how fast you were moving. All right, and so that is also an example of the Doppler effect. All right, our next topic is going to be about music. It's obviously one of the main things we do with music, sound, is we make music with it. All right. And what's the difference between sound and noise? Well, a lot of it's a matter of taste. What one person might feel is beautiful music, someone else might feel like is a bunch of noise. Your parents, for example, might disagree with you. A country and western enthusiast might disagree with a rap artist or rock and roll or so forth, or classical music. They might all argue about whether something is music or just noise. Okay, but by technical definition, a noise is just a sounds that have random pitches and patterns. In other words, they don't go together, okay, and therefore it's considered noise. All right, and there is some type of modern music and so forth that tries to do that and make random noises and pitches, but that's normally not what we consider music. All right, in order to be music, all right, something has to have a regular pattern. All right, and so the sounds are in a deliberate, intentional, and regular pattern. All right. And one of the main characteristics of music is that it has a beat. All right. And a beat is just when different sound waves interfere with each other and they cause a new wave with a new frequency. Okay, and so we say we have the beat. Mr. McMurray is notoriously for not being able to keep the beat. Okay, my wife, when we're at the pep rallies trying to clap to the school song, says, "Please, just stop. You're messing everybody else up." Okay, so I don't keep the beat very good, but I do understand what it is. Okay, also when they interfere, sometimes they create a louder and softer sound, and that's kind of what we think of as the beat. Okay, now all instruments are not played the same. For example, I can play a song on my harmonica that you may not think of how it normally sounds. Alright, so for example, if I played the Star Spangled Banner on a harmonica, it has one sound. If someone else played it on a trumpet or a bugle, it would have a different sound. Or if Jimi Hendrix did it on his electric guitar, it would have a whole completely different. This is because of what we call sound quality. Alright, every instrument produces sounds that have a different quality. And what this means is that they tend to vibrate at more than just one frequency at a time. And it's these combinations of frequencies that give each kind of instrument its particular qualities. Okay, whether it be a violin, whether it be a harmonica, whether it be a piano, and so they're going to have completely different qualities. And you can hear a rock song played by a string quartet or orchestra, and it may have a completely different sound to it, or if it's done by the marching band, than if it was done by the original rock band. Okay, because of the different quality of the different instruments. Now, speaking of different instruments, let's talk about those for just a second. All right, the first group we're going to talk about is going to be the strings, okay? They're called the strings because they all have strings. And so the object vibrating in each case, I'm not sure if that's fuzzier or better on your screen, but this is the best I could get. Okay, if you have a violin, you rub a bow, which has rosin on it, which will stick on it, and as it rubs, it vibrates the string and gives off the sounds that it makes. Same with a cello or a bass fiddle or bass violin, depending if you're in an orchestra in a country band or bluegrass or something. All right, same is true of a harp, except for in this case you're plucking the strings. Same thing would be a guitar. A piano is very similar to a harp, but if it's laid upside down, instead of plucking it with your fingers, when you hit the key, there's a little hammer, a little felt hammer that hits the string and makes it vibrate. So all of these are created by the sound is created by a vibrating string. Now there's usually some type of chamber around it, like the body of the guitar, the fiddles and so forth. Now electric guitars do not, because it doesn't really need that, but these do. Not so much about the harp, but in the piano, the case of the piano would act as a resonator. Okay, and it would vibrate at the same frequency, and that would amplify the sound as it vibrates a larger amount of air. The string would only vibrate a little bit, but when it goes back in here and vibrates and resonates at the same thing, it would amplify the sound and make it sound a lot louder. All right, so that would be our strings. The next one we're going to look at is the woodwinds. Sometimes it's a little confusing. A lot of them used to be made out of wood and can be made out of wood, but generally are not nowadays. Okay, but they are wind. The idea is that there's air that vibrates to make the sound. All right, usually in the mouthpiece there's a little wooden piece called the reed, maybe a double reed in some cases. All right, that would vibrate. This is a saxophone. This would be a clarinet. You have I believe this is probably a flute, but you also have piccolo. In this case, there's not a reed. You actually hold your mouth above it and blow the air in, and it vibrates on its own without a reed. But an oboe and I think a bassoon over here, they would all probably have reeds in there also. Okay, so it has a reed. As the air goes over, it vibrates. Okay, so that would be the woodwinds. Now, similarly, except they do not have a reed, are your brass instruments. Okay, brass instruments obviously can be made out of brass, and hence they're often gold colored. They don't have to be actually made out of brass, but usually metal of some sort. They have some keys to play the different notes, but a large part of the vibration is caused right here by the mouthpiece, and it's the player's lips that have to vibrate. And so as he blows on it, they can be really hard for someone just picking one up and playing it, because you've got to figure out how to make your lips vibrate to help make the sound. All right, the vibrations that cause the sound. And so we have a French horn, we have a trumpet, we have a trombone, and I'm going to guess that's just a tuba. Looks too big to be a sousaphone, or sousaphone? Sousaphone, I think. Anyhow, all right, so we'll call it tuba. A lot easier to say anyhow. All right, and so basically they have this column of air in here that also vibrates. So they have a column of air just like these have a column of air inside of them that vibrates, but the vibrations are caused by reed in the woodwinds, and they're caused by the player's lips in the brass. All right, and our last group we're going to talk about are the percussion. Okay, percussion is probably the most variety. There's all kinds of these that have been used in different places, different cultures and stuff. But generally, something is either struck, you hit something and it vibrates, usually a stretched skin or something, or it may shake to produce vibrations. And so you have things from maracas, drums are what we normally think of, cymbals smashing together. You've got my brain just went dead. What do you call the little thing there? Yeah, xylophone. There we go. Chimes, gongs, tambourines, all these different kind of things, bongo drums, whatever. And so they're hit. A stretched out skin that vibrates, could be metal pieces that vibrate, or tubes in the case of chimes. Gong, it's just a big piece of metal that vibrates. Same with the cymbals. Here you may have things shaking inside of it, whatever. But the things that have to be hit, and when it does, it produces the vibrations that causes what we call percussion instruments. All right. All right, and since that brings us to the end of our notes, I could be wrong, but I think I hear it. Yeah, I think I hear it, and it sounds like the sound of goodbye. With that, we will leave you and say goodbye, and we'll see you next time. Glad you were here, and hopefully stay tuned. There should be a video with some demos. Hopefully will be coming your way soon. Thanks again. Bye.